Greetings and salutations. Welcome back. We have been on a little bit of a break due to other responsibilities and things on my list of things to do. But we're back tonight and hopefully back to a more regular schedule. I appreciate the few of you who sent me messages asking when the next show was going to be. I think we did 5 days without doing a show. But the good news is that I got a lot of things finished and accomplished in that 5 days of not worrying about this. So I think I'm in a little better shape and a little better headspace to continue our journey here and now. I've shown up to water this garden yet again. For surely a water that is garden, a garden that is watered daily will grow. We all have things on our list of things to do, and unfortunately mine has been getting bigger, not smaller. Most of that is my own fault. I take on pretty big challenges. I like to stay busy, but sometimes I literally bite off more than I can chew, and I'm in sort of that situation now with some very challenging obstacles to overcome. But that's how I'm looking at things. Challenges in life are good, but it's not good if you start feeling very overwhelmed and discouraged about how you're going to plow through things. And that, honestly, is where I was at last week. Today, I'm feeling much better. Got a lot accomplished over the 5-day break. And I'm hopeful, and I'm even kind of thinking of changing some plans here. It seems to me that I can look at the numbers and look at the math and see that every time I do a new show, on average, the subs jump up by a certain number. So I suppose the road to monetization is not to, I thought about maybe I could just start doing a show once a week again, because that's a lot easier to handle. But then when I think about the fact that it would take maybe a year to get to that magic YouTube number of monetization if I do one show a week from here on in, I don't want to wait a year to be able to monetize this project or any other project. I mean, nobody wants to work for free or virtually free for a year. That being said, I want to thank the Patreon supporters and the people who have sent donations via PayPal to help us keep this thing going. But I would like to say that some of the messages that I get are pretty nasty. For example, someone sent me a message about how unprofessional it was for children to be screaming or laughing or banging things or making noise in the background of my stream. How unprofessional. And I gotta tell you, that pissed me off a little bit, because most people are watching what I do for free. And I've never gotten nasty criticism from somebody that cared enough to give me the $1 a month. If you like these kind of things and these kind of subjects we cover, I don't think that getting the begging bowl out and saying, hey, give me $1 a month and you get these extras on Patreon is too much really to ask for. I'm literally asking people for $1. And back to the children situation, sometimes I have other responsibilities and other things to do, and therefore, I really liked it when we had okay, there's a show Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m., say. I really liked having that schedule, but the problem is that sometimes the shows run 2 hours, and then it takes me a few hours to kind of calm down and relax after the stream's finished, to deal with messages from the stream or comments from the stream. And so we're looking at a 2 o'clock in the morning bedtime, and sometimes it's just not feasible to do this. And back to the children, you listen, it is unprofessional. It's incredibly unprofessional for me to not take those children out in the yard and like lock them in a cage for the hour and a half or the 2 hours that I need to do the stream. I gotta say, I got a big house here, but my children are 4 and 8. You try getting a 4 and 8-year-old to sit down and be quiet for 2 hours in the middle of the day. It's just not going to happen. And I've done what I could. I have the door closed. I'm thinking about putting some kind of a big, thick, heavy curtain or a sleeping bag hanging on the back of the door to maybe muffle some of that sound coming from my home. This is a home studio, and I have children. So if you don't want to hear children who may sometimes be laughing or screaming in the background, then click off. And quite honestly, click off and fuck off. The total income of my show here is about $100 a month right now for what has been up until recently 4 shows a week for less than Taco Bell wages. Okay, so you're right. I'm unprofessional. I'm not a professional. If I was getting a full-time wage for this, I could invest in a small studio somewhere away from my home where it would be quiet 24/7, and I can do 2 shows a day or 20 shows a week or whatever I decided to do at that point. So if you'd like to help me make the show more professional instead of bitching about my children laughing in the background, as children are going to do. Like I said, my only option is to lock them in the garage for the 2 hours, right? I don't think my wife is going to be okay with that. And honestly, neither am I. They're children. They're going to make some noise. And there was a time when I was trying to do some different things like recording music and things. It would piss me off that they're always so loud. It sounds like a herd of elephants in here sometimes. They're running around, and they're screaming, and they're laughing, but they're children, and this is what children do. So eventually I kind of surrendered to it's just going to be noisy while they're here and awake. And I try to do things when they're sleeping, but like I said, the issue with that is that the shows get too late. So, I just want to address that bit of business. And again, if people have valid criticisms, okay. I'm constantly trying to improve what it is that we're doing here. But, if you're going to complain about children laughing in the background being unprofessional for a show that you are watching for free on the internet, which I'm getting paid about $25 a week, let's break that down. If there's 4 shows a week, that's about $6. So for my hour and a half or 2 hours clocking, just doing the stream, I'm getting paid on average about $6. You're right. This is not a professional show, not on a budget of $6 a show. If I had a huge budget, I suppose I could soundproof my office here so that no matter what was going on outside, you wouldn't hear anything. But that would take time, money, and resources, which our show doesn't really have right now. Most of you have been incredibly kind and supportive. But boy, there's always going to be an asshole saying something stupid. And, I get it. Okay. Is there just internet Karens now? Is that what we've devolved into? Hey, your show that I watch, and the person even said, I've been watching your show since you started it, or something like that. So this person, and I know for a fact, I had a check just to make sure, this person never donated a penny to me. They didn't sign up for Patreon for the $1 a month. And they've been watching the show since it started, so we're now at episode 53. The shows are usually an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, so that's, I don't know, let's just round it off and say this person got 100 hours of entertainment out of me for free, and then called me unprofessional. And, listen, I try to not let these things bother me, but they do. Especially when I break down the numbers here, $6 a show, and the shows are an hour and a half or 2 hours, so there is a 16-year-old kid who just got his first job at McDonald's or Taco Bell, who is currently making more money on average than I am doing this show. So you're right. That guy working at Taco Bell or McDonald's for minimum wage is a little more professional than me because I'm dumb enough to try to sort of grow something from a seed into a big garden, and that's going to take time, energy, and dedication. Where I'm not going to be getting, you know, anywhere near decent compensation. But of course, this is a labor of love. I didn't start the show, like as oh, let's cash in here. I've been around conspiracy land enough to know what a niche market it is, what a small group it is of people in the world, what a strange subculture, but it's not a huge group. So those looking to cash in would probably be sorely disappointed. Loose audio plug again. Let's try that. Hold on one second, friends. Check one. Check one. Is this any better? You know what we're going to do? We're going to switch to the, one second. Check one. Okay, that's better. All right. And StreamYard, I don't think it's the audio plug. I don't know. Maybe it was. Now just light static. Jeez, gosh. Well, one second, friends. Let me check in myself. This will be another one. Somebody can send me an email about unprofessional. Your audio sucks. Great. I've been checking too before the stream starts. Huh. I got no headphones. Ugh. I think we're going back to a laptop if this keeps up. One of the there we go. Yeah, I hear that. That's terrible. Hold on, let me check. I'm checking with the stream. Now, nothing. Okay, sounds better now. Jeez. One second, friends. Bear with me. Now I lost it. Yeah, so now I'm losing headphones here. Hold on. Speaking of, come on. There we go. All right, sorry about that, friends. So tonight we're going to be talking about Viktor Schauberger. And tonight I thought we were going to, let me check one more thing just to be sure. So tonight I thought we're going to be talking about Viktor Schauberger. Or I'm sorry, I thought that we could start a new sort of series of investigations into UFO propulsion systems and free energy devices. For some reason, these two things seem to be linked in a lot of ways. And a lot of inventors claim that one device is both a free energy device and a propulsion system. And such is the case with Viktor Schauberger's Repulsine. And I've heard that term so many times, and I always thought it was just spelled like repulsing with the G at the end, but it's repulsine, Repulsine, repulsing engine. Boy, I gotta say, uh, everyone has mentioned Viktor Schauberger's Repulsine engine, from UFO documentaries to books. Anytime a book gets into Nazi UFOs, Joseph P. Farrell books mentions Viktor Schauberger's Repulsine engine. I'm pretty sure Michael Salla has mentioned this Repulsine engine. Many documentaries that I have witnessed. Anytime the discussion centers on Nazi UFO technology, there's two things you always hear about. The first is the Nazi Bell, and the second is Viktor Schauberger and his Repulsine engine. It's interesting to note that in the 1950s, when all of these flying saucers began to be seen everywhere, Viktor Schauberger famously said that the Americans must have gotten their his Repulsine engine and built UFOs, because he sort of, I don't know if he arrogantly is the right word, claimed that he invented a flying saucer engine here. Um, but it's interesting. I read everything that I could on the science of how this thing works, and maybe I'm just a stupid monkey. Maybe I can't uh, comprehend the physics of how this thing is supposed to work, so I thought, let's do some research and find out all that we can about it. Uh, I found an amazing documentary where a relative, I believe it's the grandson of Viktor Schauberger, goes to the United States. Remember, they're German, Viktor Schauberger, and his family. So the claims often made by UFO people about Nazi UFOs, which, first of all, it's important that we remember that all of these stories about the Nazis having UFOs and UFO technology and the Honeyboo and this Repulsion engine and the Nazi Bell, all of that, the source of all of that was a German tabloid newspaper who published articles about Nazi UFO technology in the 1960s. The evidentiary support, however, for these stories is non existent. It doesn't stop people like Joseph P. Farrell and Michael Salla and many others from claiming that the Nazis had flying saucers. And it's kind of one of my pet peeves. Uh, I've heard various so-called researchers claiming this, but nobody can give us the actual proof. What we get is drawings without provenance or without a chain of custody for us to be able to prove that they came from, the Nazi Empire during its reign. We get pictures that, again, nobody can really verify are from World War II or from Germany or any of that. And this has been one of those things. I, looking into Viktor Schauberger's background, found a great deal of information about him. Seemed to be a very smart man who believed that we should copy nature if we wanted to know how things work. He also believed that the airplane propeller was designed all wrong and that he could fix that. And this is what his Repulsion engine was supposed to be, a propulsion device. Now there's various stories of the thing powering up and shooting through the roof, so he had to build another one, which, by the way, is a story echoed by John Searle for his free energy and UFO propulsion device, flying saucer engine. He made the same exact claim, which I found suspect. But we're going to cite fair use, and we're going to share this story of Viktor Schauberger. I found this video, and it's called Viktor Schauberger, Comprehend and Copy Nature. Now, Viktor Schauberger has a bunch of inventions. He's got built some kind of water purification system. He built and got patents for an improved water pump and a few other devices that we can see and know and understand actually work. But the Repulsine engine is kind of elusive. There are incomplete models of them. There are drawings that seem to be missing parts or pieces. People have tried to recreate this Repulsine engine in the United States and several other countries. Several people have tried to recreate this, each with disappointing results. But I thought we could, I'm going to cite fair use. We're educating the public about Viktor Schauberger and his Repulsine engine, so this is a transformative work, and it is covered under fair use for us to do this. Since we're educating the public, we'll be stopping the video every once in a while just to sort of comment and critique the information being presented. So we're going to cite fair use. Let's go on to this. And here we are, friends. Okay. Oh, and I always do that. 1 second. Again, I'm so unprofessional. Look, the wrong backdrop. So send me your emails about how unprofessional I am. Oh, there we go. That's the backdrop we wanted. So, basically, this documentary covers a lot of information about Viktor Schauberger. But we're 43 minutes in until we get really more information on this Repulsine engine. The first 43 minutes is really an exploration of his water sort of inventions and his water pump and his ideas about vortexes in nature and how we can take the science of vortexes from nature and apply it to everyday problems. Interesting guy. I have to say, kind of a fascinating, sort of inventive, philosophical person who interests me very much. And so, of course, I wanted to learn more about this Repulsine engine. We're going to cite fair use, and let's take a listen. Let's try to recreate the steps. And what we get is some stories about some of his devices, and again, very little proof that they're working or... One second, friends. Yeah. Yeah, again. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. We're done with that. Thank you. Thank you. So this, again, policy violations because the YouTube algorithm, and listen, friends, it's a robot. It's an AI that does this. I'm still unsure how any of this works. YouTube being useless again. Yes. So, it's a YouTube algorithm. This is fair use. Every time they do this, they put it back after the stream, so nobody needs to get upset over them doing this policy violation thing. Yes, and I agree with Six's design. It says fair use statement. This video may contain transformative or derivative work for the purpose of education, commentary, and criticism. Yeah, I really tried to stop it every few minutes or even every minute to comment or whatever the case may be. William Pixley. It's not a It's not a copyright strike, it's a policy violation. If they black it out, it's a policy violation. You're not supposed to re-stream somebody, a large portion of somebody's video. But again, this is fair use. I'm getting to the point where we're just going to stop using that stuff. I'm just going to start making notes if this stuff continues. Yeah, I agree. Six Design says it's cropped, it's voiced over, it's obvious research. Ugh. Yes. Yeah. So I guess we can just sort of end the presentation there. I had an hour to do, but you know, well, we weren't going to get an hour out of that video. I have a few more things that we can talk about, or that I can share that won't get YouTube AI, in a huff. But I lost the one page that I was looking for. Let me see. So from the Wikipedia, uh, it's very sparse actually. I was surprised that the Wikipedia is so sparse. It says Viktor Schauberger, born 1885 in Hochslag, Upper Austria, was an Austrian. Okay, so I was wrong. He wasn't German, he was Austrian, but close. Was an Austrian forest caretaker, naturalist, pseudoscientist. Interesting, they called him a pseudoscientist, philosopher, inventor, and experimenter. Schauberger developed his own ideas based on what he observed in nature. In Implosion magazine, a magazine released by Schauberger's family, he said that aeronautical and marine engineers had incorrectly designed the propeller. He stated, as best demonstrated by nature in the case of the aerofoil maple seed, today's propeller is a pressure screw and therefore a braking screw whose purpose is to allow the heavy maple seed to fall parachute-like slowly towards the ground and to be carried away sideways by the wind in the process. No bird has such a whirling thing on its head, nor a fish on its tail. Only man made use of this natural brake screw for forward propulsion. As the propeller rotates, so does the resistance rise by the square of the rotational velocity. That's why I said, folks, maybe this guy's just too smart for me to understand. This is also a sign that this supposed propulsive device is unnaturally constructed and therefore out of place. He wrote several books. The Water Wizard, Nature as a Teacher, The Fertile Earth, and Energy Evolution, Harnessing Free Energy from Nature. Yeah, so a very interesting character, but the disappointing part is that we don't get to see this engine work. We don't get to see it create free energy, and we don't get to see it have any propulsive force that could be measured. But supporters and proponents of Mr. Schauberger seem to claim that it's because we don't have the complete information of how these things work, or it's because we do not have the catalyst or the means, what is the thing that starts this thing working. It's a tantalizing device, though. And I have followed this probably for years. I have seen this in many different books. Like I said, every book that mentions UFO flying saucers, Nazi flying saucers, mentions Viktor Schauberger. And then they sort of extrapolate and make huge and ridiculous claims from there. The science is pretty clear, however, that nobody so far, no credible scientists, have been able to show how this works, have been able to demonstrate a working model, which is the tantalizing part. Yeah. Yeah, and Sixth Design, we're going to go to the live chat for comments and questions, much the same as all free energy projects. Why don't the person who made them use them to power their house, power their other projects? We're going to be covering John Searle here, and John Searle's interesting because he claimed that he did use it to power his house, but then he got arrested for stealing power from the power company illegally. So is the chat saved? I believe it is. So if you leave links, they can be clicked on the replay. But the The stream takes a while. Usually they put the stream up and then the live chat somehow gets added hours later. Not sure how that works, but the chat is definitely being saved, and for all eternity, whatever you write in here should be preserved on our corporate overlords' servers on YouTube. Yeah, and William Pixley mentioned that he was not a fan of the Nazis. I've heard that from several sources, that he didn't want his devices to be used by the Nazis in the Third Reich, but had some involvement with research for them. Jeanette Krasenko says, right, because people want to make money. And yes, of course, Sixth Design, you can leave all the links that you want. I trust your judgment. Yes, friends. So, we're going to be starting this new series on these free energy devices and UFO propulsion systems. See if we can get some clues as to how these things may actually operate. As I said, I have an interest in free energy devices, but except for, proven technology, which is I call almost free energy, solar panels is kind of like free energy, but they cost a lot to make, they cost a lot to purchase, but once you purchase them, they'll work for a long, long time and create energy for you. Wind turbines, of course, come to mind. Water turbines come to mind, but these are proven, generators that actually generate power. But again, the first law of thermodynamics is, of course, at play with those, because the energy is not being created from nowhere. It's being transformed. The mechanical force of the wind is transformed into electrical energy. And the same for water wheels and things like that. And in solar cells, it's more of a chemical process, but it's still, you're transforming sunlight into electrical energy. Again, the first law of thermodynamics, energy can neither be created nor destroyed, so these devices do not violate the first law of thermodynamics, but a lot of these free energy, so-called free energy and zero-point devices, the claim is that they do the claim is that they do somehow violate the first law of thermodynamics, which is impossible. It's impossible for that to be the case. We'd have to throw out everything we know about physics, but some people still make these claims. For one, I mentioned these crystal batteries. It's a John Hutchinson invention, and a few others have experimented with them. Those are fascinating to me because I don't know what's happening. I know that if you get the mix right and you have a magnesium rod and a copper tube, you can generate a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of free energy forever. But it's like, 1 volt at like, 0.20 milliamps, or, it's just a tiny, you can't even light one LED from one of these things without some clever circuitry called a joule thief to do so. But it's still interesting to me because how you can pack a bunch of Epsom salts and a few other ingredients into a copper tube with a magnesium rod and just it'll create a tiny bit of energy literally forever. I don't know how it works. And it's fascinating to me because what if you could take that and scale it up? What if you could take that tiny bit of energy and bank them together so that you could make something usable, like say 12 volts at an amp? If you had 12 volts at an amp and you could feed that into a storage device, it could do useful work and useful material. Alien Scientist had a great show the other day about this kind of thing. Yes, and he's a smarter man than me. He's an actual physicist, or I don't know if he would consider himself a physicist, but he definitely has a degree in physics, which I have tremendous respect for, because for those that don't know, the math classes required to get a degree in physics are ridiculous. They're worse than computer science, and computer science is pretty bad. Computer science degree classes are almost all math. And I don't even know why that is, because some of the best coders that I know aren't very good at math. But it is what it is. I think that the education system thinks if they can force you to take all these really, really hard math classes, they'll somehow, you'll learn to think logically or scientifically, or that you'll become good at problem solving. I don't know. And Six Design is sharing some links on crystal cell battery technology. Yeah, it's something fascinating to me, and we're going to be sharing. I'll share one of my devices and show you it lighting an LED for literally years now, and no, it, you know, there's no energy input. Well, you do a small charge to get it started, but crystal batteries to me are the only so-called zero point or free energy technology that I've ever come across that show some promise to me. And someday I'd like to get back to experimenting with them. Every once in a while I pull them out and start messing with them or try and make them bigger, try to make them generate more power. There's a, boy, that's a whole rabbit hole. If you go on YouTube and search crystal cell batteries or, crystal batteries, you'll find hundreds of people experimenting with these things. But as far as some of these other devices, as far as some of these other devices and claims made, just once I'd like one of them to be true. It's kind of like the UFO rabbit hole, these free energy rabbit holes. Like, oh no, this one really works. And then you get into it and no, it really doesn't. Or people can't prove that it does. Six is Design. I watch John Hudson. A lot of his stuff is quite old, but I like his ideas. Although, okay, I can't say all of his explanations are as he says. Yeah, what I came away with after building a bunch of crystal batteries is I don't know why it works. I'm not a physicist, and I've even had physicists or showed it to physicists. Like, can you explain this to me? How this works? And there's various, I don't know, I have a friend and he's sort of a computer science guy, and he said, no, you don't understand. What it is just, it's a tiny, tiny bit of energy, and it's releasing super slowly over time, just like taking a AA battery and forcing it to slowly release its power over years instead of, I'm still not convinced. I'm not convinced either way. Um, I'm not convinced there isn't something to it. So far, crystal batteries have been the most promising thing I've seen that may mean that zero point energy is possible. Have you researched Joseph Newman? Yes, I believe I have, and he had an interesting device, but again, uh, the claims that he made could not be verified. But then he had an epic battle with the patent office, and there's an excellent documentary on Mr. Newman on Netflix right now, and I highly recommend it. It's a shame. It's kind of a tragic story. That guy's story. He's another one who he may have had something there, and a lot of very scientific, very smart people were totally convinced that the Newman engine worked and that you could get more energy out of his device than you put in. You could put it, a very tiny bit of energy into it and get a larger amount out, which is often called an over unity device, which again, it will violate the first law of thermodynamics. William Pixley, get me in touch with that guy. I seen him in the documentary. I'd sure like an interview. Maybe you could arrange that. Jeanette Krasenko, I know there's a way. I hope there's a way. Okay, so Sixes, I was a tinker as a child. Maybe that's why I can relate to the experiments like that. We can find if we don't search. Or we can't find if we don't search. Yeah, I spent a long time I spent a long time playing with magnets, and I was convinced for a time that I can make a free energy device out of magnets, and so have a lot of other people been convinced that you can make a free energy device of some sort or another out of magnets. But I failed at every turn, and I had a bunch that were like almost working, but that's just it. You can play with that thing for a year, and it'll still be almost working, but never quite make it to the working stage. It's tantalizing. It's tantalizing because you get these, basically if you can get magnets to just turn a wheel, and it seems like you could do it. It really does. You start experimenting and like, okay, I'm gonna glue these magnets around this bike spoke wheel, and then we're gonna have another magnet that's gonna be the repulsing magnet. It's gonna force the wheel to spin, but the problem is it doesn't work. You can play with magnets for 2 years. And by the way, Cliff High is one of those guys that's playing with magnets, sure that he can make a free energy device, I think. I've seen some of his posts. It's on my list of things to do to watch some of his videos about his magnetic experiments because he's a smart guy. Maybe he could figure it out. Yes, and Sixth Design kind enough to share our Patreon. Oh, that's another bit of business. So there was supposed to be a mind hack demo released last month to the Patreon supporters, and again got a little bit behind. And what happened is that I did some voiceovers and did not proof them, if that makes sense. Like the voiceovers were terrible. Maybe related to this pushing in that microphone to jiggering the input is like a little off, and you gotta. And anyway, I didn't want to release that demo with scratchy, weird vocals with hissing all over it. So it sounded fine. I guess I wasn't paying too close of attention. And then when I went to mix it, I went, oh no, I can't finish this. So this month for sure, the final Mind Hack demo is coming out. I think it's 5 tracks or 4 tracks, maybe 4 or 5 new Mind Hack tracks. And then I'm going to master the entire Mind Hack project, which will at that point be 3 hours and 30 minutes of audio. Once the completed Mind Hack master is done, it'll be released to the Patreon supporters for free. Those who want to purchase that, it'll be a $20 product. And I think that's really worth every penny. But individual results will vary, right? Yes, Charles Unleashed. Coral Castle had film of the guy building it, just chains and pulleys. Go to Smoke King and Paranormal Hood Jiggy on the Coral Castle. They'll go off about how there's nothing to it and it was just chains and pulleys, right? We still may cover that story because it's still an interesting story. William Pixley says Cliff is a little loopy. Yeah, and he's a little busy lately because he's trying to upgrade his antiquated webbot to keep up with my webbot X. You have no hope of doing that, Cliff. Just give up. My webbot X is going to destroy your antiquated, old technology webbot. In its so far as its accuracy and its cognition of that which it is absorbing, I think there's no contest, Cliff High, but you can try. You can try to upgrade your failing webbot to keep up with mine. Oh, there we go. Patreon is experiencing minor delays today, just so people know. Yeah. So if anybody has any more questions or comments for me, I'll stick around for a little while, or we can call this one a show. If anybody has any other free energy or UFO propulsion devices that we can look into for fun, I would be interested in doing that. Mario Heat, is he the guy who denies racism is a thing? Now, I don't think I've ever heard him talk like that, so I think you may be confusing him with someone else in his defense, but I could be wrong. Yeah, and somebody mentioned the sunroom. That's another reason why I was off for, like, 4 days, 5 days, trying to get this sunroom done. So we'll give a little cabin update, I suppose. Show you what's been going on there. But if you follow me on Twitter, you will have already seen it. But some people don't, and also for the benefit of people watching on Facebook, I'm in a lot of these off-grid and cabin building groups on Facebook, and some of them watch our show um, occasionally on Facebook Live. So I am going to share. Let me share this. I'm just going to share my Twitter and show you some pictures of what I've been busy with, what I've been working on. This is our show. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm so happy about this. I have wanted one of these things forever. This is a wood cook stove, and it is now installed and working at the cabin, which I'm very happy about. A wood cook stove is the most. If I had to pick the most important appliance that you should have at an off-grid cabin, the most useful and important would be a wood cook stove. And here is why, friends. With the wood cook stove, you can heat your cabin, the whole cabin. You can cook your food on the top of it, in pans or pots or whatever. Boil water. You can boil water, which is going to be important. That would be incredibly important in a survival situation. The ability to boil water may be the difference between life and death. You can always boil water on the top of one of these. Here we see the firebox, and there's another view here. So, yeah, and the holdup, it took an extra week because this is a weird ovular flue over here, and it had to be adapted. And so, but the good news is that the old wood stove is a little tiny wood stove without an oven. Oh, I forgot to mention. So also with this thing, it's an oven, and on you see on the right side there, there's a big metal box that is either a warmer or a water tank. I have to test it with water to see if it's going to be able to do that. But the firebox is always already on the left side. I'm not so sure that this is going to work as a water tank. It may just be a warmer. I'd rather have a water tank, so you can always have hot water for dishes or shower or whatever. But it's only, I think that's probably only like 5 gallons, but we'll see. Um, let's go to the next. Let's go to the next thing, and that is the sunroom. Yeah, so this is, but this is another just picture of it working. And I got to tell you, I was so happy to get this thing working. I went out and got some frozen pizzas. And so, yeah, here's a day of my life I'll never get back. I suddenly realized that the doors that I got two doors that are like frosted glass, really decorative doors from a neighbor. But the doors were really skinny. Does that make sense? And there's going to be a door on the front of the sunroom and on the side of it. And so you need two doors. But then I suddenly realized that those other doors are so small, you're not going to be able to get a couch or anything big in and out of that sunroom, and that could be a problem. So I had to spend the day building a big door out of glass, out of old windows and just scraps from the woodshed. This took all day because I'm not a carpenter, and you can tell. But it works, and so this thing was built out of some old wood windows that I had in the woodshed. I've been saving windows for a while, knowing that I'm going to build a sunroom, and just some scraps. But that got me over the obstacle, and then we get to the actual sunroom part, and it's going pretty good. It's starting to look like a sunroom. The door's going here. Um, and I have to fill in the rest with windows, and then we're putting the roof on. We're going to leave the front open and unfinished so that we'll be able to get the roof beams and the materials for the roof in and out of there. It's going to have a clear corrugated plastic roof, which will enable it's going to be a huge greenhouse. Well, not huge, but I think it's 10 by 24, which is a good sized greenhouse. This should, speaking of free energy, this is one of my free energy devices, I suppose, this greenhouse, because the winters at the cabin are incredibly harsh and cold, and you burn through a shit ton of firewood. So, the greenhouse is an attempt, at least, to get some free heat in the form of, it's basically going to be a solar oven in there. And I'm not an early riser. So I think if I were to wake up at 10 or 11 or noon, by 10 or 11 or noon, even in the middle of the winter, it's going to be really warm in that greenhouse if we have a good sunny day, especially. So then there'll be a door between the cabin and the greenhouse. Once I get up, if it's really warm in that greenhouse, then I open the door and we get the benefits of the free heat. Um, Oh, an alien scientist is here. Shout out to alien scientist. Good old Viktor Schauberger. Yeah, I'd like to, we should have. I should have had you on to so that you can explain, if you could, how this thing's supposed to work. Because I don't get it. I just don't get it. And you're a physicist. You're a smarter guy than me. I think that maybe if this is a good concept that should or could work, you would know better than me. From what I've seen, no, it's just some kind of idea that it's like an unfinished prototype that never made it to the proof of concept or working stage. And I gotta say, in his defense, I've got 5 things that I tried to invent that are still in a box in a garage somewhere, in my garage, that I didn't get to the working stage, but were fascinating to work on, interesting to work on, and maybe that's what his thing was, you know? Jiggy covered Coral Castle. Yeah, Jiggy and Smoke King covered Coral Castle and basically debunked that it was anything supernatural, because a lot of New Age type goes around and they go around and they sort of claim that this guy who built Coral Castle had some kind of sonic device that could lift heavy things and make things levitate. And there's no proof of that. So Jiggy and Smoke King did a good job showing exactly how he built Coral Castle. Yeah, alien scientist, that wood cook stove is amazing. Well, when you come and visit, alien scientist, I will make sure that we have plenty of pizza making materials or just some frozen pizzas. That's what I did last weekend, and I gotta say, they were delicious. I was so happy to be baking pizza while I was heating the cabin. See, the thing is this thing is all about energy efficiency, that wood cook stove, because you're already burning that wood to heat the cabin. So it's very energy efficient to say, I'm also going to cook my dinner on it. I'm going to cook my breakfast on it. I'm going to cook my lunch on it. I'm going to boil my water on it, or I'm going to heat my bath water. I still have to do that. I have a shower stall, but we don't have a means of hot water, at least not a modern one. So I do it the Amish way, and I put a huge 10-gallon pot on the top of the wood stove, and it heats the water for me. It's great. And, then I take that pot into the shower stall, and we have this sort of pump and shower head, if that makes sense. Everything there works pretty slow. And yeah, please support Alien Scientist YouTube channel. I really like watching him. I don't get a chance to watch him as much as I'd like, but every once in a while when I have time, I catch up to what he's been doing. And he's working on his own ideas about, let's just say, anti-gravity, free energy. Interesting research. Make a steam engine on the stove, power a fan or something. Yeah, people have done stuff like that. I have a small wood stove in the box in my shed from when my uncle died in 2001. Yeah, they're good things to have. I highly advise you to hook it up. You're going to like it. It's not real hard. You get some stovepipe, you break a hole in the wall, get some elbows, a flange. I'm very lucky in that I have a neighbor, and I want to thank him if he's listening. Matt, I have a neighbor at the cabin. This guy is just, I lucked out. Um, I didn't know it when I bought that cabin land and started on this huge project, but literally my closest neighbor, right across the street from me, is this amazing guy named Matt, who can build anything. He can fix anything. He's amazing, uh, and so he has come and helped me at various times with stuff like this. And he's put in a ton of wood stoves, and considering it's something that goes on fire, I do not feel confident in my abilities to hook these things up correctly. I want to, it's important to me that that thing's hooked up the right way and isn't going to burn the cabin down or anything. So he came over and helped me switch out the old wood stove for the new wood stove. He's like MacGyver too. Like if there's a way to make it work, he'll figure it out. And so, and also he put the roof on the living room. Really, I helped. He's a real carpenter. He builds decks for a living. He builds like decks and uh, I don't know. He works at another sort of resort community nearby the cabin as a sort of general fix it guy, and so he'll hook up people's propane stoves or whatever, and build decks and. But the guy's just amazing. So thanks to him, he came over and got that thing working, and I was so happy. If you use that stove as a hot water tank, it will rust badly. You need to separate hot water tank and a heat exchanger. You're probably right. An alien scientist, what I have plans to do is there's space between the wall and the back of the wood stove. There's plenty of space. So I'm going to see if I can't get a metal box made that goes on the back of the wood stove. That box on the side of the wood stove is probably a warmer because I don't think that enough heat is going to go over there. When I saw it though, I thought, well, we could just drill a hole in that and put a spigot on it, and that could be a hot water tank. But I don't think it's going to work that well. So my other plan is to get a metal box sort of made and then weld it onto the back of the wood stove. That's what a lot of people do. And some wood stoves, like Kitchen Queens, come with that metal box already on the back of the wood stove. This one doesn't have it. And then you put a spigot on it. You can even run plumbing to it, like over to the sink if you want. Um, there's a lot of options with this thing. I'm so happy to get one. Yes, Alien Scientist builds custom showers for my day job, and I gotta tell you, Jeremy, I gotta not. I once in a while I see some job that he did, and I go, "Wow, look at this tile work! It's fucking beautiful." He does amazing work, and once in a while I want to show my wife like a bathroom that he did, but I don't want to do that because then she's gonna want some. She's gonna want me to get you over here, man. She's gonna want you over here, bro. Yeah, cast iron will rust. Probably be a steel box on the back of that thing. I don't know. I don't know anything about this. This is just an idea. For now, I'm content with putting a big 10-gallon pot on the top of it. I got so used to cooking one skillet meals or one pot meals because the old wood stove was just this little, almost shoebox thing, and you can only put one pan or frying pan or pot on top of it. So I got used to cooking one skillet everything. Um, one pan meals. So I doubt I'll be using four burners at once, and putting that big 10-gallon pot up there just takes up one burner. So I'd still have three burners left to cook on while it's heating the water and heating the cabin and maybe baking a pie. Yeah, I for some reason I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of baking in my future. I'm already looking at pizza crust recipes and bread recipes. I used to make French baguettes. That's probably my favorite bread. I'm going to try making some of that at the cabin. It's just great because that thing's already going. You might as well use the oven while it's on, you know. That's what's missing in today's heat. They used to have boilers and radiant heat, and those old homes kept the humidity up. Yeah, I have to put I normally keep a pot of water on that wood stove just because yeah, it it gets dry if you don't do that sometimes. Be careful what you wish for, Jeremy. I'll come down for a week and redo your bathroom. My wife would probably like that. We have one bathroom here, her bathroom, that's pretty, it's like they just redid it a year or two before we moved in here. It's really nice. But the other one, It's like from the 1970s, you know? It's really dated. Um, I'm going to try putting a floor in that in the next few weeks, I hope. But I don't do tile on walls for sure. The people who use Jeremy's shower start floating into space. That's like the bonus. You get extra. And what's funny is like sometimes I think about him working on somebody's bathroom, and I can tell from some of the bathrooms like he works for some pretty wealthy people. And I wonder if they ever realize that he's the alien scientist, like besides being this amazing tile guy, it's just interesting. When I had corporate day jobs, I didn't let them know that I did magic shows because then you become like the freak. Uh, but once in a while, somebody found out, and right about then is usually time to get a new job. Alien scientist is going to help advise me on my bathroom floor. You know what I think I'm doing? I did a vinyl groutable floor in my kitchen in my old house, and it held up for like 12 years beautifully. And I already know how to do that. I don't have a tile cutter, and my wife doesn't like hard tiles. She's always, for some reason, a child can fall on a vinyl floor and be fine, but if you put hard tile down, they'll break their head and die. So she doesn't want hard tile on the floor. I'm probably going to do vinyl groutable tile. I told a customer once because his dad was a physicist, probably a mistake. Yeah, well, just get the check before you let them know, you know? Yeah, friends. So we're going to do this whole series on anti-gravity devices or claimed anti-gravity devices and claimed free energy devices. William Pixley mentioned Mr. Newman. We're going to be covering him. We're probably going to do an episode on Mr. Hutchinson and the Hutchinson effect and a few others, John Searle, and a few other famous people that sort of made these amazing claims about having free energy and UFO propulsion devices. And we'll see, you know, we'll see if there is something to what they're talking about. Is there any propulsion systems that you feel nobody covers but actually seems workable? Well, the Aurora is said to use some kind of pulsed methane engine. Uh, I don't know if there's anything to that, but the science, when I heard somebody explain uh, how the Aurora project propulsion system is supposed to work, the science behind that sounded plausible at least. So I think there's something to. Um, I can't remember the term for it. Maybe Jeremy can remind me. Um, it's some kind of pulsed ramjet, maybe ramjet, pulsed ramjet methane propulsion system. I believe I got that right. That's a mouthful. Uh, and I like the. I followed for lifters for a time. You could just look up lifters on UFO or excuse me on YouTube, and you'll find a ton of those. But the problem with lifters is that you need this super high power uh, energy system, and then you can only make this little model that the power system can't also lift. Does that make sense? So you got this little device with like wires going to it. Usually they're like triangles or whatever, and you got two wires going to it. So yeah, it can float and fly. Will float, but the the energy system that you need would never also float on it. So it's kind of like people are trying to improve those, I think. Recently, I had a customer who worked for the Defense Department, and his roommate was telling me about his security clearances and whatnot. Decided it was better not to mention. Yeah, sometimes it's better not to mention. I just didn't want people that I worked with knowing because corporations are strange. Like, I even had, I worked for a very famous Philadelphia company. Uh, I'm not going to name them. Um, I had to think about it. Should I name them? No, probably not. Um, and I didn't realize it, but I signed an employment contract that said that I could not have any outside employment. I could not work as a consultant anywhere or have any additional jobs. In other words, if I worked for them, I wasn't allowed to work anywhere else in any capacity. I couldn't do a second job. I couldn't, drive Uber. Well, back then we didn't. That there wasn't even Uber. But the point is that you don't know with some companies how they're going to react to you, and I don't believe that they have a right to tell you what to do on your own time. So I just kept it to myself. That I was literally, while I was working there, I was doing shows like in other cities all over the East Coast, really, up and down, Jersey, New York, um, and they had no idea what I was doing. And then I was kind of getting nervous because like I was on television on these local TV stations. Like I went and did one in Rhode Island, like a local Saturday afternoon or something television show, and I did magic, and I went, oh my god, like I gotta watch it because somebody might see this that I work with, and I could literally get fired for doing a job outside of my corporate slave owners kind of thing. Brad Gray says, great show the other night, Alien Scientist. I'm gonna have to catch up on that. Oh yeah, NDA, or was that additional? Yeah, I had an NDA for that job too, so they owned me. Not only did I wasn't allowed to, in their NDA, I wasn't allowed to speak to anyone. They had I think they had sort of a pathological fear of somebody selling the customer list to a competitor. So the HR, I remember they talked to me when I got hired about like, here's the NDA, and you need to be sure that you never share company documents, especially customer lists or anything like that, with anyone, especially competitors. You'll be fired instantly. You'll be prosecuted for theft of trade secrets and all this stuff. It was really oppressive, and you know that's how some companies and corporations are, though. They kind of own you, and especially working in corporate America, I think it's better, really, that they should know nothing about what you do outside of work. And I was always quiet about what I did outside of work. What are you doing this weekend? Oh, nothing. I'm gonna watch some movies. And meanwhile, I was doing a stage magic show at like the Manhattan Arts Center, right in Manhattan that weekend. So could have lived this double life. But I kind of felt like that was my Clark Kent, and they didn't have a right to know about my Superman unless they had to. And plus, they could fire me for doing that on the side. My wife's my boss's wife is super into conspiracy. She always asks me about what I think about different topics. That's interesting. My wife is zero into all of this stuff, but every once in a while she'll send me a strange story or something. Like, I guess, especially if it's something that she thinks I can make a show topic out of lately or something like that. So, friends, we're going to continue in our coverage of this strange world of anti gravity devices and free energy devices, and we're just going to kind of see where it goes. If there's interest, we'll do. I can do 10 shows about this, um, but we're going to be getting back to some other things. Oh, I forgot. We have that poll about whether I should cover a certain astronaut, fake secret space program guy. And it was something like, I think I lost that gamble because I thought everybody keeps asking me to cover this clown, and I said, well, look, I'll put it in a Twitter poll, and if people really want me to, I'll go back and cover him. But if not, I get out of it. I don't have to deal with that guy anymore. And of course, everybody wants me to cover it. So I have I guess, a monologue about covering him that I think covers some important subjects that we need to cover if we're going to cover him, and people know why. Um, you know, People should be allowed to critique people who tell crazy stories about, visiting the moon and battling reptilian aliens and time traveling. If somebody's going on the internet and saying that that really happened to them, then, I'm allowed to go on the internet and make fun of that clown and sort of analyze why he's lying about all this shit without fear of legal repercussions. This is America where we have, freedom of speech here. And he thinks he should be able to just spew all the bullshit in the internet he wants, and nobody's allowed to say that his fake bullshit stories aren't true. And that's not the way the world works, bro. So we're going to give you an education. Yeah, and Sixes shares Viktor Schauberger's Wikipedia. Viktor Schauberger's an interesting guy. Jonaside says, my niece worked for Boeing as an engineer, and she said anti-gravity is really interesting. I bet you Boeing has done a bunch of research into that. Oh, Jeanette Krasenko. Anything new about FFT? I'm not sure what FFT, and then the DDO challenge. I think you mean dildo challenge. I'm going to do an update on David Wilcock and the Box of Dildos challenge. I will do that this week for you guys. I've been, waiting for something to do a show out of regarding him. I don't want to sit through 4 hours of him crying and making up shit. So, but I have something that we can talk about with him. So we'll do, I guess it will be David Wilcock and a Box of Dildos, part 3, coming your way soon, I promise. Yes, friends, so I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I want to remind you that you can support us in 2 ways. One is, of course, financially. There's a PayPal donate button on the About section of our channel, as well as a button to join Patreon for $1 and get those free benefits. Well, you're giving me $1. They're not free, but for example, the Mind Hack project that's coming out is going to be a retail product that's $20. If you are a Patreon supporter, you've been getting pieces of this thing for months now, and soon the entire finished 3-hour and 30-minute plus audio will be mastered and completed and ready for sale, but the Patreon supporters get it first. The other way that you can support me costs nothing, and that is to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos on social media. Also, if you know somebody that likes these sort of strange conspiracy land, UFOs, paranormal topics, please do send our channel link to one of your friends, 2 of your friends, 100 of your friends. If you've got a big Facebook following, post our channel link. Tell people about our show. It really does help to move the sub numbers forward. We're still trying very hard to get the show up to 1,000 subscribers so that we can have super chat donations instead of what we have right now, which is what we call our not so super chat donations. If you send me a PayPal donation and you want a shout out, just add the note line, whatever you want me to say, or whatever you'd like to share, and I will be sure to do that. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. And until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. God bless and good night to all of you.